that the next Republican committee meeting will actually be March the 3rd, Tuesday. It's held the first Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock in the barn at Lord Fairfax Community College. Now, our next speaker, I'm a huge fan. I have to say, when I saw his name come across the schedule, I was absolutely astounded. I was so happy that he was going to be here today. He's here to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is actually understanding what's happening in the legislature, right? We talked about Democrats being elected, winning the House, winning the Senate. It was such a big victory. But you know what's happening right now is they're doing things that they never campaigned on. And do you know why they didn't campaign on any of the things that they're doing right now? Because they knew that they would lose. And so it's our job as citizens, as voters, to understand what it is they're doing so that we know how and when to take action. So without any further ado, please give me a big hand for Tim Anderson, folks.
Yeah. So I'm used to saying good morning, Facebook. So if you know me, I have a Facebook video usually daily on what is going on in the General Assembly. I'm an attorney. I'm in Virginia Beach. I practice Second Amendment felon restoration work as a primary area of my practice, which has been an extremely unpopular area of law to practice in, but it is my core belief that everyone has a God-given right to defend themselves. And when you stand in court and you're in a political climate where judges are Democrats and the prosecutors are Democrats and they don't like guns to begin with, and you're trying to get a certain type of class of people restored, it's a rough day, and I do that every day. And that's what I've been doing for 20 years. So when the Democrats won in November, I turned to my wife and I said, it's going to suck in Virginia this year, in 2020. And let me tell you, it sucks. And I think you know it. I know a lot of you are wound up about the firearm rights, and I know a lot of you are well aware of those. I'm going to try to summarize a few of those today, but I also want to talk about the other things that they've done this year. They've proposed essentially drive-through abortion clinics. You're going to be allowed to get an abortion without a doctor. A nurse practitioner will be able to do it. It'll be able to be in like an urgent care facility, not a hospital. There's no waiting period. There's no ultrasound requirement. And they wanted to take away a child's ability to get an abortion without her parents having any say. And so a 15-year-old would be allowed to go in and get an abortion. And then when she went back to school and was in pain, she'd have to call and ask her mom to be able to take the Tylenol to put her out of pain at the school. And so it's unbelievable what they've done. Undocumented workers, undocumented folks in the United States are going to be able to now have driving privilege cards. That's happened. And so anyone who is illegally in the United States will legally be allowed and recognized by the Commonwealth of Virginia to operate a motor vehicle. They'll be given a driver privilege card. It will look a lot like your driver's license card. They're taking away photo identification for voting. So you're going to be allowed to vote with your utility bill. And if you don't even have your utility bill, you're going to be able to just sign your name saying you are who you are. The Democrats have fought very hard to make certain things very easy, like voting, with the false premise that the only reason why they're doing that is because people, the underprivileged, do not have the ability to get a voter ID card. It costs them money, they can't do it. But the reality is that you can't, you can go straight to the Department of Elections to get a free ID card. And so it was a false narrative. It was a false narrative when they said that AR-15s were a major problem in Virginia. The truth and the reality about gun-related deaths in Virginia is there's about 1,000 a year in Virginia. 65% of those are suicides. So you have about 350 homicides in Virginia, and of those 350 homicides, 8 of those were from rifles in a state of 9 million people. It was a false narrative. they said that AR-15s were so bad that we were going to make them illegal, and not only illegal, but you're going to be a felon to own one that you already had beforehand. That was Senate Bill 16 by Dick Saslaw. That one really rubbed me the wrong way, so we started a recall petition against Senator Saslaw before session in Fairfax. I went up there. We had about 50 people up there. The Libertarian Party showed up, and we started the recall work against him. Pretty much on the first day of session, Senator Saslaw withdrew Senate Bill 16. Then we saw House Bill 961 get purported by Delegate Levine, who is equally as bad as Senator Saslaw is. And 961 was going to now let us keep the firearms, but they had to be registered. And that became a huge fight. People were very upset about that. Then they watered it down further and said, well, we'll let you keep them, but you're just not going to be allowed to buy them. But now we're going to go after magazines on pistols. And so now what they wanted to do is make magazines that would hold more than 12. A felon to own, you'd be a felon to have just the magazine, not even the gun. And so then that got softened down to become a misdemeanor. And then what you have is you have you have this push by people saying, look, this is crazy. You're talking about making people in Virginia who've legally purchased firearms, who have not contributed to the gun violence problems in Virginia, criminals overnight. And that's what they wanted to do. That's what they proposed to do. Now that could carried over till next year, but you're crazy if you think that it's not going to show up again next year. It is definitely going to be on their agenda. They have 27 gun bills that they passed this year. 27. In some way, somehow, some way that there's going to be different laws today than they were last year. Red flag laws are going to be on the books, okay? Red flag. So I can just walk up to a magistrate now and say, you're a substantial risk to yourself because I know that you told me that you're going to kill yourself. So now the police come and they confiscate your guns. The only reason that I want the police to come confiscate your guns is because I don't like you, right? And there's not going to be any doctor that's going to evaluate. The police are just going to come and take your guns. That's happening. It's going to be a crime now to sell a gun to your friend without going through a universal background check. Something that is totally legal today. Senator Lucas from Portsmouth wanted to make you a felon to do after July 1. It's going to be a misdemeanor, but it's still a crime. It's unbelievable what the Democrats have done this year. They want your children to be forced to take the Gardasil vaccine, your female daughters, okay? The Gardasil vaccine has killed almost 100 children since from 1996 to 2013, which is the only reporting period we have. That's more people than AR-15s have killed in that time period in Virginia. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They want to force it on your children to be able to take that. What's happened this year in the General Assembly is, and Senator Chase has said this, is they have turned Virginia into more of a nanny state, taking away your ability to understand how you're going to interact with your children, how you're going to interact with your family, and how you're going to interact with your liberties. And that's the Democrats' motto, to make you more dependent on their system. Now, what can you do? One of the things that they've passed is they're going to let localities make decisions of whether you can have a gun-free zone at an event like this. Okay, this is a permitted event. This just didn't happen. They had to get a permit to do this. Fauquier would have the ability to declare this event a gun-free zone now. Okay, the county or Warrington or wherever we are, whatever whoever the Board of Supervisors is over this land can make this a gun-free zone, even though it's a constitutional rally. So what you can do is you can go to your Board of Supervisors and you can ask them for an ordinance that says you are not going to exercise that authority, and you need to do that. We did it with the Second Amendment sanctuary. We went there. They proposed these resolutions. They passed these resolutions in now 140 jurisdictions in Virginia. We now have to go back and say, now pass the ordinance that says you're not going to make gun-free zones in parks, in permitted events, in recreation centers. Make them do it. They promised they would do it when they promised to support and defend the Second Amendment. You have to go back to the Board of Supervisors to do that. What's the next thing that you can do? Well, we can vote, okay? But the problem with voting is this, is that next year we have a governor, a lieutenant governor, an attorney general, and the House of Delegates. So let's say we win all of those as Republicans. We still have a Democrat Senate until 2023, which means every law that's passed this year, every law that will pass next year will stay on the books unless the courts strike them down. Every law will stay on the books until we go back into 2023, and this is assuming that we get a Republican governor. Amanda Chase is running for, she's going to be here right after me. Assuming we get a Republican governor, you get the House of Delegates next year, we win it in November next year, and then in 2023 you got to win the House of Delegates again and the Senate, and only then are you then allowed to repeal the laws that are being passed this year and next year. So we're looking at 2024 as the first time a lot of these laws are going to be repealed. So yeah, voting's important, but it's not going to change overnight. And the Democrats didn't win overnight. They've slowly been taking the state race by race. And so, yes, voting matters. Winning 2021 matters. Winning the governor's race matters. Winning the attorney general's race is extremely important. We have Mark Herring, who's the puppet master behind all of this. The attorney general's race is probably, next to the governor, the most important race in Virginia to determine how your liberties are going to be interpreted. Do you know that if you go to church and you bring in a gun into church during your session, during the worship session, that it is a crime to do that in Virginia? During the worship session, Cuccinelli, our former attorney general, wrote an opinion letter that said, no, it's not. We're not going to enforce that law. Mark Herring has not done such things. All right? We need an attorney general who is going to interpret the Constitution the way it was meant to, not to further the Democrats' ideologies. So, voting, yes, extremely important. Engaging your local government to pass the resolutions not to make gun-free zones in your localities is very important. And the most important thing to do is to elect Senator Chase as our next governor, who just showed up. It's unbelievable. Here she is, and I'm not going to say anything more because I'm more interested in hearing from her than hearing from me. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.